At 27, Max Verstappen finally reveals the 5 drivers he hated most. Max Verstappen, by age 27, had accumulated over $300 million in earnings and 4 world championships. In recent interviews, he has addressed 5 drivers from his career who stood out as particularly difficult competitors. This analysis examines those 5 drivers and the specific reasons Verstappen found competing against them challenging. Verstappen is not known for publicly expressing hostility toward competitors. He maintains a measured, professional demeanor away from racing. Yet his career in Formula One has placed him in direct competition with drivers who tested him in distinct ways. The 5th driver is Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull. Perez is widely regarded as personable on the grid. The issue for Verstappen was not with Perez's character, but with his consistency as a competitor. Across their seasons together, Perez's performance fluctuated significantly. In some races, he competed at Verstappen's level. In others, he finished laps behind. This unpredictability created a specific frustration. A driver prefers to understand his competitor's baseline, to know what he's facing each weekend. With Perez, performance varied too greatly to establish reliable patterns. Verstappen struggled with that uncertainty. During the 2023 season, a strategic miscalculation in team orders created additional tension. Verstappen felt his own team compromised his position. When a teammate becomes unpredictable and the team structure becomes unreliable, respect deteriorates into frustration. Verstappen later stated that while he could accept losing to a consistent competitor, the lack of clarity with Perez created a different problem. He could not predict where he stood. The 4th driver is Carlos Sainz. Sainz possesses genuine speed. Verstappen's frustration with him stems less from driving ability than from what Sainz represents. In the junior categories from 2015 to 2018, both drivers competed in the same series. Verstappen viewed Sainz as consistently taking the safer path, relying on political positioning and team support rather than outright performance. This pattern continued at Ferrari. Sainz achieved victories that Verstappen believed were granted through strategy and timing, rather than earned through pace. Verstappen observed teammates securing wins through favorable circumstances. So tension escalated after an on-track incident in 2023. Following the crash, Sainz commented in an interview that Verstappen sometimes drives as though no other competitors exist. Sainz implied Verstappen's aggression exceeded acceptable boundaries. Verstappen's response was silence. Later, in a podcast interview, he clarified his position. He viewed Sainz as a capable midfield driver elevated by superior machinery. When that driver lectures others about racing standards, Verstappen felt entitled to dismiss the criticism. The core frustration is the gap between Sainz's potential and his results. Verstappen sees talent that could achieve championships, but instead settles for podiums and occasional victories. In Verstappen's assessment, wasted potential is worse than straightforward defeat. The 3rd driver is Lance Stroll. So Stroll no longer competes against Verstappen, yet he remains on this list for a specific reason. Stroll represents something Verstappen has found objectionable throughout his career: advancement based on family wealth rather than pure competitive merit. Stroll is not an inadequate driver. He performs at an acceptable professional level. His position in Formula One is defensible. The source of Verstappen's frustration is the path by which Stroll entered the sport and the continued access his wealth provides. Verstappen's father spent years fighting for every opportunity, each drive, each sponsorship, each seat requiring personal effort. Verstappen inherited his father's work ethic, not financial advantage. When Verstappen outpaced Stroll by substantial margins in junior categories. Yet Stroll secured a Formula One drive ahead of him through family resources, something crystallized in Verstappen. The frustration was not about raw ability, it was about fairness. Drivers should not require exponentially greater performance simply because they lack inherited wealth. In a 2022 interview, Verstappen stated, "I respect hard work. I don't respect shortcuts. I've seen many shortcuts in this sport." That comment targeted Stroll directly. Every competitive success Stroll achieved served as a reminder that some drivers received advantages Verstappen never had. Verstappen had to be demonstrably superior just to receive equal consideration. This resentment accumulated over years. Every on-track encounter became about more than the race itself. It represented a principle. The second driver is Charles Leclerc. Leclerc was a surprising inclusion to Verstappen when considering his list. Verstappen respects Leclerc's abilities and maintains cordial relations away from racing. Yet something about competition with Leclerc brings out a particular response in Verstappen. Leclerc is genuinely fast, potentially championship caliber in his speed. What frustrates Verstappen is Leclerc's inconsistency tied to his emotional state. His performance fluctuates substantially depending on his mental condition. One race he performs at an elite level. The following race shows degraded fundamentals. Verstappen's strength is not merely raw speed, though he possesses it. It is consistency. It is the ability to dominate when it matters, not when conditions align favorably. Emotional volatility strikes Verstappen as a weakness. The deeper friction exists in what Leclerc represents. Leclerc is the driver Ferrari developed and supported from the beginning, the chosen successor they invested in completely. Yet, despite Ferrari's institutional backing, Verstappen beats him. Leclerc carries visible frustration about this. Verstappen recognizes this resentment. He observes Leclerc looking at him with mixed feelings, admiration coupled with frustration about his circumstances. Leclerc possesses everything available to maximize performance, and it remains insufficient. In an interview, Verstappen observed that Leclerc's anger may be directed at him personally, or at the situation itself. Leclerc has been given the advantages Leclerc wanted, and they have not produced the results Leclerc expected. Verstappen recognizes this gap. The issue is not Leclerc as a person. It concerns what he represents, the burden of expectation, the imprisonment of being in the correct machinery, but still not achieving primacy. That separation will persist indefinitely. The first driver is Lewis Hamilton. The Verstappen-Hamilton rivalry requires different analysis. It is not primarily a personal rivalry in a conventional sense. It reflects fundamentally different approaches to racing. Each driver regards the other's philosophy as flawed. Hamilton represents a contrasting path, politically engaged, culturally involved, using his platform for purposes beyond racing. Verstappen initially dismissed this engagement as distraction from the competitive purpose. The actual source of tension extends deeper. Hamilton has competed with superior machinery throughout his career. Mercedes maintained technological dominance for nearly a decade. During that period, Hamilton accumulated 7 championships. Verstappen, driving for Red Bull, never quite as technologically dominant, had to compete from a disadvantaged position. The 2021 Abu Dhabi Championship, decided by a rule interpretation, created a permanent rupture. Verstappen secured the championship, but not through straightforward performance. Hamilton's response was to communicate that he would not accept this outcome. Hamilton made clear he viewed Verstappen as not truly deserving championship status. This realization changed Verstappen's understanding of Hamilton. Verstappen grasped that Hamilton had never granted him legitimate parity. Hamilton believed Verstappen had come through an unconventional path, that Hamilton had earned his position traditionally, and that Verstappen had benefited from fortune. Verstappen's response was to demonstrate dominance. He won 3 consecutive championships while Hamilton remained competitive. This established a dynamic that Verstappen understood would never resolve. Hamilton would not concede that Verstappen belonged at his level. Verstappen has indicated that while Hamilton possesses genuine driving ability, Hamilton never extended belief in Verstappen's legitimacy. That absence of respect created a permanent division that will not be reconciled. The significance of this list requires context. Verstappen did not compile it out of petulance. He is human. Even elite competitors experience frustration, disrespect, and moments where competition becomes personal. What distinguishes Verstappen among drivers is how he processes these feelings. He converts frustration into motivation. Each driver on this list contributed to Verstappen's development, some through direct competition, others through principle, others through the friction such contrasts create. All refined his competitive edge. This is not hate in a destructive sense. This is the fuel of a championship driver. At 27, Verstappen is not damaged by these rivalries. He is defined by them. His 3 championships emerged from these competitions, not in spite of them. These 5 drivers did not represent the targets of his spite. They represented the drivers who mattered most to his career.